Here's a letter nobody warns you about. You're 67, maybe 68. You retired a year or two ago. Your income is lower than it's been in decades. And one afternoon, an envelope from Social Security shows up telling you your Medicare premium is going up. Not by a little, by hundreds of dollars a month, because of how much money you made. And you stand there thinking, what money? I'm retired. And here's what gets people. They're not even looking at this year. They're looking back 2 years, at the version of you that was still working, or sold a house, or moved some retirement money around one time. That surcharge has a name almost nobody knows until it hits them. It's called IRMAA. And here's the thing, every other video gets wrong. They treat it like a tax you just have to swallow. It isn't. For a lot of you, it can be avoided before it starts. And for some of you, it can be appealed and won back with a single form most retirees have never heard of. So, let me make you a deal. By the end of this video, you'll understand 3 things cold. What IRMAA actually is, and the 2-year trap that lets it ambush people who aren't even high earners anymore. The exact income lines for 2026, the cliffs, and why being $1 over one of them can cost you $1,000 or more. And the part most channels skip entirely, how to legally keep your income under those lines on purpose, and how to file the one form that can erase the surcharge after a life change. I'm Jeffrey Miller. I make these for people who are tired of being talked down to about their own money. There's a free 1-page IRMAA Cliff cheat sheet for this episode in the description. The 2026 lines and the appeal form on a single page. That's all I'll say about it. Let's get into it. Because this lands differently depending on who you are, I want you to meet 3 people first, and I want you to figure out which one is you. First, Ray and Diane, comfortable, retired, and about to get blindsided by one good decision they made 2 years ago. Second, Walter, a widower who's about to find out that losing his wife also quietly doubled his exposure to this surcharge. And third, Frank, who just retired this year, is watching IRMAA charge him on income he no longer earns and is going to walk away with the surcharge wiped out because he learns the one move the other 2 don't. Ray and Diane, Walter, Frank. Hold all 3. By the end, you'll know exactly which playbook is yours. Let's start with what this thing even is, because the name is deliberately forgettable. IRMAA stands for the Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. In plain English, it's an extra charge added on top of your normal Medicare premiums. Both your Part B, the doctor and outpatient part, and your Part D, the prescription drug part. And it kicks in only if your income is above a certain line. For most people, Medicare's a pretty good deal. The government covers about 75% of the cost of your Part B premium, and you pay the other 25%. But if the government decides you're a higher income retiree, it makes you cover a bigger slice, 50, 65, 80, even 85% of the true cost. That bigger slice is IRMAA. It's not a separate bill. It rides quietly inside your Medicare premium, which is exactly why people don't see it coming. Now here's the mechanism that makes IRMAA so sneaky, and you need to understand it before anything else makes sense. Social Security does not look at what you earn this year to set this year's surcharge. They look back 2 years. So your 2026 Medicare premium is based on the tax return you filed in 2025 for income you earned in 2024. And why 2 years back, not 1? Because they use the most recent tax return the IRS has actually finished processing, and that's always a couple of years behind. So nobody's being cruel here. The system is just slow, and slow is exactly what hurts you. The surcharge you pay the year after you retire is calculated on the income from back when you were still working, or back when something unusual happened to your finances. You can be living on a modest, fixed income today and still be charged like the high earner you were 2 years ago. That 2-year delay is where almost every painful IRMAA surprise lives, and it's exactly what's about to happen to Ray and Diane. Ray and Diane are a comfortable couple, both 67, both newly on Medicare. They're not rich. Their ordinary retirement income is well under the line, no surcharge, no problem. But 2 years ago, back in 2024, they did something their financial advisor told them was smart. They converted a chunk of their old 401k into a Roth to get ahead of future taxes. Good move, long term. But that conversion counted as income that year, a big one-time spike, and it pushed their 2024 income up over an IRMAA line. They no longer have that income. It was a one-time thing, 2 years gone. But in 2026, the surcharge shows up anyway, on both their Medicare premiums, because the formula is staring at 2024. Ray opens the letter, sees his premium jumped, and says the thing everyone says, there has to be a mistake. There isn't. The system is working exactly as designed. That's what makes it so maddening. Let me freeze the timeline so it's impossible to forget. 2024. Ray and Diane's income spikes from a one-time Roth conversion. 2025. They file that tax return. 2026. Social Security reaches back, reads that 2024 number, and stacks a surcharge onto the Medicare premiums they're paying right now, even though their actual income today is back to normal. One good decision in 2024, one surcharge 2 years later. So here's the one thing to hold on to. The income that sets your Medicare surcharge is already 2 years in the past, which means the time to manage it is before it happens, and we'll get to exactly how. So what exactly is this income number they're measuring? It's not your paycheck, and it's not just your adjusted gross income. Social Security uses something called your modified adjusted gross income, MAGI for short. That's the one number Medicare watches. Not your paycheck, not your pension, not your Social Security check. This number. Here's the official definition, word for word. Your MAGI is your total adjusted gross income plus your tax-exempt interest income. Let me translate the part that trips people up. Tax-exempt interest, the interest from those municipal bonds people buy, specifically because it's tax-free, still counts toward this number. So you can owe zero income tax on that muni-bond interest and have it still push you over an IRMAA cliff. Social Security adds it right back in. Capital gains from selling a house or stock, withdrawals from a traditional IRA, that Roth conversion, all of it flows into MAGI. The lesson: the income that triggers IRMAA is broader than the income you pay tax on. Knowing what's in that bucket is step one to staying under the line. Now the lines themselves. Here are the 2026 brackets, and I want you to find your row. The standard Part B premium this year is $202.90 a month. That's what you pay if you're under the line. If you're single, the first line is a MAGI of $109,000. If you're married filing jointly, it's $218,000. Stay at or below that, and you pay zero surcharge. Cross it, and the premium climbs in steps. Single between $109,000 and $137,000, married between $218,000 and $274,000, your Part B jumps to $284.10, plus an extra $14.50 on your drug plan, and the steps keep climbing from there, all the way to the top tier, single income of $500,000 or more, where Part B hits $689.90 a month. That's the staircase. But the staircase isn't the dangerous part. The edges of each step are. This is the single most important thing in the whole video, so I'm going to slow all the way down. IRMAA is not a gradual phase-in, it is a cliff. With income tax, when you cross into a higher bracket, only the dollars above the line get taxed more. That's how brackets normally work, and it's gentle. IRMAA does not work that way. With IRMAA, the moment your MAGI goes $1 single over a threshold, you owe the entire surcharge for that whole tier, not a little more. All of it. Let me make that real. Say you're single, and your income lands at exactly $109,000. You're under the line, you pay the standard $202.90. Now imagine you earned one more dollar. Your income is $109,001. That single dollar pushes you over the first cliff, and your Part B premium jumps by $81.20 a month, plus $14.50 on your drug plan. That's about $1,000 a year, triggered by $1 of income. I've sat across from people who did everything else right and got caught by exactly this. By a few $100s they didn't see coming. Let's put the number on the screen so it stings the right amount. That first cliff adds $81.20 to your monthly Part B premium. Over 12 months, that's about $974 a year. For one person. If you're a married couple and both of you cross the line, you each pay it, so it's roughly $1,900 a year between you, before we even add the drug plan piece. And at the very top tier, the surcharge is $487 a month on Part B alone. That's almost $5,800 a year, per person. The cliff isn't a rounding error. For $1 of income at the wrong moment, you can hand the government $1,000 you never needed to spend. Which is exactly why managing the dollar near the edge matters more than almost anything else in retirement income planning. Now here's a piece of good news buried in the bad. IRMAA is recalculated every single year on a fresh 2-year-old tax return. It is not a life sentence. The surcharge Ray and Diane pay in 2026 because of their one-time 2024 spike goes away in 2027, as long as their 2025 income came back down under the line, which it did. So a one-time bump usually means one bad year, not forever. But flip that around, and it's also the warning. Every year stands on its own, which means every year you have a fresh chance to either trip a cliff or stay clean. People who manage this well don't think about it once. They glance at the lines every year before they do anything big with their money. Hold that idea. It's the entire avoid it strategy, and we're almost there. Quick one, because I genuinely want to know who's out here. Had you ever heard the word IRMAA before this video? Just type yes or no in the comments. I read them, and honestly, the answer tells me how badly this topic needs to exist. Okay, now to Walter, because his situation is the one that catches the most decent, careful people completely off guard. And it might be the most important 90 seconds in this video if you're married. Walter is 71. Last year, he lost his wife of 44 years. Set the grief aside for a second because the finances do something quietly brutal here. While they were married, Walter and his wife filed their taxes jointly, and the joint IRMAA line, $218,000, was comfortably above their income. No surcharge. But the year after she passes, Walter's tax filing status changes from married filing jointly to single, and the single lines are far lower. That first cliff drops from $218,000 all the way down to $109,000. His income barely changed. The line moved underneath him. Suddenly, the same retirement income that was safely under the joint threshold is now over the single one, and Walter gets an IRMAA surcharge in the middle of the worst year of his life. This is the survivor trap, and it connects directly to something I covered before. Look at the two lines side by side, because this is the whole injustice on one screen. Married filing jointly. The first IRMAA cliff sits at $218,000. Single. It sits at $109,000, exactly half. When one spouse dies, the survivor doesn't just grieve. Their income often barely drops. They keep most of the pensions, the same Social Security check, or the higher of the two. But their threshold gets cut in half. Same money, half the cushion. It's the survivor penalty showing up again, this time wearing a Medicare uniform. And almost nobody plans for it, because in the year it matters, planning is the last thing on anyone's mind. So, is Walter just stuck? Not entirely, and this is where it starts to turn. Two things help him. First, the year his filing status changes because of his wife's death is exactly the kind of event Social Security will reconsider. Losing a spouse is on their official list of life-changing events, and I'll show you the form in a few minutes. Second, going forward, Walter now has to manage his income against that lower single line on purpose, watching his IRA withdrawals, his capital gains, every dollar near that $109,000 edge, in a way he never had to when the joint line gave him room. The point for you, if you're married, the survivor's IRMAA exposure is something you can see coming now, while you're both here, and plan around. Not something the surviving spouse should discover in an envelope. That's the kind of thing a good plan handles in advance. Speaking of which, let's talk about avoiding the cliff on purpose. Here's the part that actually changes outcomes, and it's the part most videos leave out because it takes real explaining. Your MAGI is not some fixed thing that happens to you. In retirement, you have more control over your taxable income than you ever did with a paycheck, because you largely decide when to pull money and from where. And every one of those choices moves your MAGI up or down, which means every one of them moves you toward an IRMAA cliff or away from it. You can't change the lines, but you can, within reason and the law, decide which side of them you land on. Let me give you the 3 levers that do the most work. And if you've never heard some of these terms before, that's completely normal. You don't need the jargon, just the idea behind it. None of this is exotic, and none of it is a loophole. It's just knowing the rules well enough to not trip over them. 3 levers. Lever 1. The timing of Roth conversions. Doing them in the right years, in the right size, so a smart long-term move doesn't accidentally trip a Medicare cliff. Lever 2. Qualified charitable distributions. A way to give to charity straight from your IRA that satisfies your required withdrawal without adding to your MAGI. Lever 3. Spreading capital gains. selling appreciated assets across multiple years instead of all at once, so a single big sale doesn't launch you over a line. Keep those 3 in view as I walk through them. The whole game is keeping your 2-year-out income on the friendly side of the cliff. Start with the one that bit Ray and Diane: Roth conversions. Converting traditional retirement money to a Roth is often a genuinely smart move. You pay tax now to get tax-free growth later. But every dollar you convert counts as income that year, and that's exactly what can shove your MAGI over an IRMAA line 2 years down the road. I'll tell you honestly, this is the one that breaks my heart a little. I've watched people do a textbook perfect conversion, exactly what their advisor told them to do, and still open a surprise Medicare bill 2 years later, just because nobody ever mentioned the line. It wasn't a mistake, it was a blind spot. And it's the easiest one on this list to avoid. The fix isn't to skip the conversion, it's to size it. Instead of converting a huge lump in 1 year and blowing past a cliff, you convert smaller amounts across several years, filling up the room you have under the next IRMAA line and stopping there. A lot of people do their conversions in the window between retiring and starting Medicare at 65, precisely so the spike lands before IRMAA is even watching. I'll be straight with you. This is the one where a good tax pro pays for themselves, because the math is worth getting exactly right. Lever 2 is one of the most underused tools in all of retirement, and if you give to charity at all, lean in. Once you're 73, the IRS forces you to start pulling money out of your traditional retirement accounts every year, the required minimum distribution, whether you need it or not. And every dollar of it lands in your MAGI and can push you toward an IRMAA cliff. But there's a move called a qualified charitable distribution. Don't worry about the name, just hold on to the move. You have the money sent directly from your IRA to a charity, and here's the magic. It counts toward your required withdrawal, but it does not count in your MAGI at all. So instead of pulling $15,000 out, watching it inflate your income, and then donating some of it, you send it straight to the cause. The requirement's satisfied, and your IRMAA income never sees it. For charitably minded retirees near a cliff, that's one of the cleanest ways to stay under the line. Lever 3, spread out your big sales. If you're sitting on a stock that's tripled, or a second property, or anything with a large gain, selling it all in one tax year can launch your MAGI clean over an IRMAA line. And remember the cliff, where $1 over costs you the whole tier. Where it's possible, taking the sale across 2 or 3 years keeps each year's income lower and can keep you under the line entirely. And here's the gotcha I promised earlier, the one that ambushes the conservative investor specifically. Lots of retirees move into municipal bonds because the interest is tax-free, and they assume tax-free means invisible. It is not invisible to IRMAA. Tax-exempt interest gets added right back into your MAGI for this calculation. So the very investment someone bought to lower their tax bill can quietly push them over a Medicare cliff. None of these levers is about dodging anything. It's about knowing the rules well enough that you don't get punished by accident. Now for Frank, and the move the other two don't make. Frank retired this year at 66. While he was working, he earned good money, well over the IRMAA line. So when he signs up for Medicare, the surcharge hits him because the formula is looking back 2 years at his high working year income. Here's Frank's frustration, and maybe yours. That income is gone. He's retired. He's living on a fraction of what he made. Why is Medicare charging him like he's still pulling that salary? Ray and Diane just have to wait it out. Their spike was a one-time thing, and it'll roll off next year. But Frank's situation is different in a way that matters enormously. Frank had a life-changing event. He stopped working, and that one fact unlocks a door the others don't have. The door is a single form, and it is the most valuable thing in this entire video. It's called Form SSA-44. Here's what it does. It tells Social Security, look, I know you're charging me based on my income from 2 years ago, but I had a major life change since then, and my income now is much lower. Please recalculate my surcharge based on what I actually make today, not what I made back then. If you qualify, Social Security throws out the 2-year-old number and uses your reduced current income instead. And the IRMAA surcharge can drop to a lower tier or vanish completely. You do not have to sit there and pay a surcharge on a salary you no longer earn while you wait 2 years for the lag to catch up. You can fix it now with one form. Frank files the SSA-44, checks the box for work stoppage, attaches a letter from his employer and his estimate of this year's income, and the surcharge that never should have applied to a retired man gets wiped out. Most retirees have never heard of this form. You just did. And it's not only for retiring. The SSA-44 lists 8 qualifying life-changing events, and if any one of them dropped your income, you can file. Here they are. 1. Marriage. 2. Divorce or annulment. 3. Death of your spouse. That's Walter's. 4. Work stoppage. Full retirement. That's Frank's. 5. Work reduction. Cutting back your hours. 6. Loss of income-producing property through a disaster or event beyond your control. 7. Loss of pension income. And 8. An employer settlement payment from a company closure, bankruptcy, or reorganization. If your income fell because of any of those, you do not have to wait out the 2-year lag. You file the form, you bring proof of the event and your new lower income, and you ask Social Security to charge you based on the life you're actually living. Now let me draw one careful line, because people mix these two up and it costs them. The SSA-44 is for when your income genuinely went down because of one of those 8 events. That's most of you. There's a separate situation. If you think Social Security simply got it wrong, they used the wrong year, or the IRS sent bad data, that's not an SSA-44, that's a formal appeal, a reconsideration on a different form. And one more honest caveat. If your income is lower now just because markets dipped or you spent less, with no qualifying life event behind it, the 44 doesn't apply. You simply wait, and the 2-year lag fixes it on its own as your lower income year rolls through. So, income dropped from a real-life event, file the 44. They made a clerical mistake, file an appeal. Income just naturally lower, be patient. 3 different situations, 3 different responses. Don't file the wrong one. Let me save you from the 4 mistakes I see sink people on this. 1. Never finding out IRMAA exists until the letter arrives. By then, your income 2 years ago is already locked, and your options shrink to the appeal form or nothing. 2. Doing a big Roth conversion or a giant asset sale in a single year without ever checking where the lines are. The most expensive way to learn about a cliff is to fall off one. 3. Assuming tax-free muni interest doesn't count. It does, every time. And 4. The big one for anyone who's had a life change. Paying an IRMAA surcharge for 2 full years on income you no longer earn, simply because you never knew the SSA-44 existed. That last one is pure lost money, and it's the one this video exists to prevent. So here's your homework, and it's short. First, every year before you do anything big with your money, a conversion, a sale, a large withdrawal, look up the current IRMAA lines and check where the move would land your income. The cheat sheet in the description has the 2026 numbers on one page for exactly this. Second, if you've recently had any of those 8 life-changing events, you retired, your hours dropped, you lost a spouse, you lost a pension, and you're being charged a surcharge based on your higher old income, download Form SSA-44 from ssa.gov, fill it out, and file it. It is free, it is official, and there's no penalty for asking. Third, if you're married, look at the survivor situation now, while you both can, because the day the single line replaces the joint one is the day it's hardest to deal with. 3 moves. Watch the line, file the form, plan for the survivor. Hold up the 3 plays one more time, because they map straight onto our 3 people. Predict it, like Ray and Diane should have, by seeing that a 2024 conversion would echo into a 2026 surcharge. Steer it. Manage your MAGI with conversions, charitable distributions, and spread out gains so you stay on the friendly side of the line. And appeal it, like Frank, with the SSA-44, when a real-life change has dropped your income below what the old number says. Predict, steer, appeal. That's the entire playbook on one screen. Now I'm not going to pretend everybody needs to obsess over this. If your retirement income is comfortably under that first line and likely to stay there, IRMAA may never touch you, and you can hold these 3 plays in your back pocket for the years something big happens. A house sale, an inheritance, a large conversion. But if you're anywhere near that first cliff, or you've got a one-time income event on the horizon, or you've just been through one of those 8 life changes, then the difference between knowing this and not knowing it is measured in real thousands of dollars. The whole reason this surcharge catches good, careful people is that it hides, inside a premium, behind a 2-year delay, under a name designed to be forgotten. You don't get to make it disappear. But you do get to stop being surprised by it. And being unsurprised, in this case, is worth a lot of money. So bring it home. IRMAA is an income-based surcharge on your Medicare premiums set by your income from 2 years ago, and it works as a cliff. $1 over a line costs you the whole tier. Your income for this is your MAGI, adjusted gross income plus tax-exempt interest, muni-bonds included. You avoid it by steering that income, sizing your conversions, using charitable distributions, spreading your gains, so you stay under the line on purpose. And when a real-life change has cut your income, you don't wait 2 years and pay for nothing. You file Form SSA-44 and have the surcharge recalculated on the life you're actually living. Ray and Diane wait out a one-time spike. Walter plans around a survivor's lower line. Frank files the form and wins his surcharge back. Find out which one is you, and act before the envelope shows up, not after. And the honest reminder, as always, this is educational, not personal financial advice. Your income picture has details a video can't see, and near a cliff, a good tax pro or advisor earns their fee. Use this to ask sharper questions, not to replace a real plan. If this finally made IRMAA make sense, do 2 things for me. Tell me in the comments which of the 3 you are, the one-time spike, the survivor, or the just retired. And next time, I'm taking on the most argued about decision in all of Social Security, the honest case for claiming at 62, the real situations where taking it early is the smart move, not the mistake people assume it always is. Subscribe so it lands in your feed, and send this to one person over 65 who's on Medicare. It might save them $1,000 they don't know they're about to lose. Watch the line, that's where it all starts.